come down and tell this story, and she has finally made it. And do you sit or do you stand? What would you like to do?
I need to stand for this one.
You choose. I'll remove this so people can actually see you.
Thank you.
Are you doing the donkey's thing?
Yeah.
She told me the story she was going to tell, and I said that's extremely relevant for these times, and I'm sure you will think so too once you've heard it. It is the lovely MEG PHILP. Thank you.
A challenge for me, the story. Here we go. Long, long ago in old China, on a wet and windy day, a young man with his pack on his back was struggling to get to shelter. And he was really relieved to see that there was a bridge across the river he'd been following. And when he got to the other side, there was an inn. It seemed to have had a flag hanging out. Oh, so he was very pleased to go there. It looked really clean and tidy. Now, this inn was called the Bridge Inn. And at the village further up the mountain, people didn't know much about the woman who ran it. She seemed to be single, but she kept a very clean place and kept to herself, and people didn't know much about her at all. And this young man was just so relieved to have shelter. And when he went forward and asked for a place, she was very courteous and bowed and brought him in and said, I have 3 other guests, you will have company. We're just getting the meal ready. Come in. And she gave him a bowl to wash himself in and took him into the room where the meal was set out. There were 3 travellers there, and they too, like him, had goods to sell, and they were on their way to the next market town, walking all the way. And he sat down and introduced himself, and the food was good. He ate a lot, he was so hungry, and the men sat and chatted together the way people do, especially when they're on the road. Started telling stories, and one sang a few songs, and just it was getting late on, and the young man said, I have to be up when the crows go fly past. I'll have to go. Thank you, you've been good company. And then the woman just happened to come in. Her timing was amazing. She had a tray with glasses of it, with wine. Oh, kind sir, she said, do have some of my homemade wine. People do enjoy it, and it will help you sleep. The young man didn't feel like wine. He said, oh no, I'll just go straight up. Thank you very much. And the room where they slept with the beds, basic, was above the main part of the building. He went up the stairs and he saw there were 6 beds, and he chose the bed closest to the door. There was something he wasn't quite sure of. And pretty soon the men stumbled up, and he was lying there trying to sleep, and they snored and they snored, and eventually they stopped. And when all was quiet, the young man thought he heard strange movements going on down below. Maybe it was robbers. So he got up and he looked just very carefully past the door, down the stairs. And there below, where the kitchen fire was, the woman was crouched in front of it. The embers were dying, but she seemed to be kneeling. She had a box in front of her. She opened the box, and as he looked, he saw her take out a little man, a little plough, a little horse, and she leant forward then. There was a candle nearby next to a jug of water. She took a drink of water and then blew it over the figures. And when she did that, they came to life. From where he saw they were not very small, but he could see them moving across the earthen floor, and it was horse and plough and a man pushing, following along. Pretty soon he had ploughed a mat-sized piece of ground there in the floor, and then he went forward, and the woman took from her sleeve some seeds. She gave them to the man, and the man went down the mat, down the earth, throwing these seeds left and right. And as soon as they hit the ground, they started to spring up. Bright green they were. It was amazing. And as soon as he'd finished the final row, they all hung their heads. It was buckwheat. What? He couldn't believe his eyes. Next thing, the man produces a scythe from the box, and he cuts it all down. He gets a stone, and he grinds the greens, and then, when it's finished, he's got flour, he puts it in a sack, and he gives it to the woman who's been watching him all this time, and bows very courteously. The woman takes the flour, and as soon as she does, the figures are frozen again. She picks them up, puts them back in the box. The young man's, oh, this is strange magic. Oh, I'm not sure about this. I don't think he slept much that night. He was up as soon as the cock crowed. He was up, and he got ready to go. And when he went downstairs, he was the first. She was there. Oh, kind sir, here you are. Now, something to break your fast. I've made these lovely buckwheat cakes. I'm sure you would enjoy them. They did look beautiful and golden brown. He said, oh, thank you, no, I really must be on my way. But the others will come down soon, and I'm sure they'll enjoy them. And she said, oh, make sure you come by this way again. I'd love to see you. Well, he went and took his pack and went outside, and then thought, I need to know what's going to happen next. And so instead of going on the trail back towards the main town where he was going to have some business, he went out and around the back of the buildings to where there was a meadow, and in the meadow were a couple of donkeys. Oh, he thought, that's interesting. And as he waited there, he looked and he could see over the fence into the yard, and here were the men coming out with their packs ready to go, and they were talking together. And as they got towards the gate, something strange, they sort of froze, and then suddenly the ears grew, and then got pointed, and then their noses stretched out, and suddenly they dropped on all fours, and they were donkeys. 3 donkeys. The woman came out of the house and quickly took the packs off the donkeys' backs and ushered them into the shed down by the side. Well, she took the packs off and went back into the house with them. Oh, this is terrible. The young man rushed away, and he couldn't forget what had happened. He did his business in town, and he knew he had to pass this way again. And it was quite some days before he came back. And when he did, on the way, he passed through a little village. And in that village, there was a bakery. And in the bakery, they happened to have some more of these buckwheat cakes. Thought the man. And he bought 6. And he put them in his pack. And he went back to that same bridge inn. The woman answered the door. Oh, sir, you're back. How lovely to see you. Oh, look, I've got no more guests today. You're just yourself, so I will give you my full attention. Oh, that's very good of you. I've had a long day. He timed it so he was bright, really, in the beginning of dark. And so he didn't have a meal. He said he had eaten earlier, and he went to bed. And once again, he heard those familiar sounds downstairs. Next morning, he was up and early, and she was surprised that he was at the table already, because he was ready with a plan. She put down a plate of buckwheat cakes and said, I'll just go and get the tea. And off she went. And he took out a plate from his pack and the 6 that he had gathered, and he'd bought them, and he swapped them over. 2 different places, put the other ones in pack. And he made sure that he had 1, and then he had the other 6 there, hers. And she came out with the glass for him, and she said, "Oh, how lovely." And he said, "Would you like to join me? Please do. I hate to eat alone." And so she said, "Oh, of course I will." And she picked up one of the buckwheat cakes, and he kept very straight-faced. And he watched very carefully, and he picked up his, and he bit into it. She bit into hers, and he watched, and she twisted her head slightly, and suddenly her eyelashes got very, very long, and then her nose shaped out, and before too long, she was down on all fours, a donkey. Oh, He decided there and then that he would take the box with the magic things in. It was a dangerous thing, and he wanted to get rid of it. And as for the donkey, well, it would help. You know, he wouldn't have to walk so far, and he could carry more. So he ended up with the donkey out into the yard, and then he remembered the others, the 3 donkeys and the 2 more that were there before. He made sure that he opened the gate and let them go free. He wasn't sure how they'd go, but he was quite surprised by the donkey the woman became. She was very docile, very strong, a steady kind of worker. And the young man did really well in his job. He was able to go great distances, sell more silk than he'd ever managed to do before. And he flourished and was doing very well for himself. After some years, he'd covered quite a bit of that part of China. And it was just as he was coming up this great corner one day on a mountain, and the donkeys plodding up, quite the thing. And all of a sudden, a man who'd been lying on an old log that seemed to be like a bench for him got up and looked at him. He was a very elderly man with a great long white beard, a sage of some sort perhaps. This old man staggered forward, and the young man thought, "Oh, I've got some food I can give him." But before he could do that, the old man said, "Oh, good gracious me, that's the landlady from the Bridge Inn you've got there." How did he went up to the donkey and he stroked her and said, "My dear, she's been working long and hard for you. That's long enough. No. You need to let her go." And he took the bridle off her face. And as soon as he did, she became the elegant young, middle-aged woman that she always was. She bowed very deeply to the sage. And as for the young man, she looked him up and down and stormed off. And she was never seen in that part of China ever again.
I said it was appropriate because there are so many donkeys around at the moment. I think somebody's been turning people into them.
Speaking of which,